divorce? Is it which is it a certain spouse that would order it? Is it an attorney or an accountant? And really, anyone can order it. The homeowner can order it, or an attorney can order it. Some attorneys have answers all the questions in the report. There are no guide to each get their own appraisal report, and then allowed to be. Okay? We just tell you what it is, and we tell you why it is that way. And that we want to figure out. We can come do the inspection on your property before you know what the effective date is, but we can't start analyzing the market or write the report until we're really clear on what that effective date is. Okay, so just so you know that. When should you order the report is another concern that some people have. Like, how long do I wait? We haven't filed for divorce yet, or our hearing isn't until this date. Should we wait till then? Again, every situation is different, and you're going to want to talk with your attorney. Here's the thing, though, it's usually best. Here's why you shouldn't wait. If you're using the date that you file papers for divorce as of your effective date, and you waited a few years to order the appraisal, well, then some time has passed in between filing the papers and best if we're permitted full access so we can see everything. And what do we do while we're inside the house, and what are we looking for? We're taking pictures, at least I do. I take pictures of every single room. We're just looking for the overall quality and condition of the property. We don't look at any of your personal items at all. We don't care about that stuff. And if you're wondering about what type of information could you provide to us that would be helpful, like some homeowners will give us a written list of all of the improvements that they've made on the house. It's awesome. Some homeowners are really detailed. Some people just kind of write things down. That's great. But, you know, whatever information you can give us, the more the better. I don't need receipts or anything like that, but just a general description of what it is that you did and approximately when you did it, like maybe the month and year or something like that. You could give us that list. Actually, we have a list on our website that it's sort of like a guide that you could print out if you wanted it. It's totally free. There's a link on our website. I'll put it in the description here, where you just print it out and it basically asks you all of the questions, and it walks you through the information that we're looking for, so you could fill that out, and that would be helpful, and then you could just hand that to the appraiser. So again, some people think that they're having a difficult time, and I'm just an ear that'll listen. It has nothing to do with the report.